Welcome to the How to Publish Your Book podcast, where we're helping writers become authors. I'm Ashley Shannon, and I'm here with my co-host, Kerry McAvoy, and today we're going to talk about first drafts and all of the edits that come after, I guess, right?
That's right. Hi, guys. Good to see you guys today.
Yeah. So Kerry and I are in this really unique position where we both have first drafts of something that have seen an editor. Has yours seen an editor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they've both been to an editor and both come back just kind of ripped to shreds. And today we're going to talk about where to start in your revisions, how we're revising, and kind of how to deal with that because I feel like, I don't know. Well, I feel like I was a brat. You probably weren't because you're not really a brat person. But like when I got my edits back, I was like, nope, you're wrong. Like none of these are right. I don't need your help. Like
Yeah, but this is not my first rodeo. I've self-published devotionals before. So when I got that first draft back, he tore me to pieces, told me that editing it was, in his words, quote, a nightmare. That's what he said. And then he said that my authority in the book, I had no more authority to write the book than any Tom, Dick, or Sally. He has a sense of humor, the guy. So I walked around the house bawling and screaming for 2 days. And I would have tried to kick the cat if I had one, but I was very, very upset. So, no, I can be a brat. And I definitely was a brat after that first experience, for sure. Yeah.
I was too. No, I didn't actually send mine to like an editor. I passed mine off to a friend. Well, he is an editor, but so I kind of felt like, I'm handing this to a friend. I guess maybe I thought he was going to go easy on me and I very much got it back and he was like, "What is the point of this?" Like for my prologue. And then like you've got like so many chapters that just all you do is introduce us to characters for like 6 chapters. And so we decided that those needed to be rewritten and oh my god, no, I do not want to rewrite 6 chapters.
Yeah, yeah, because you're really touching on something important, and that is we tell everyone to write the shittiest first draft, but we get attached, and we somehow think that our first drafts are magical and wonderful, and that someone's going to find us and think that we have arrived, and where have we been hiding all our lives? And then what comes back is that it's a shitty draft. I don't know why we're surprised by that, but I'm always surprised, So, is it because there's a lot of emotional investment?
Yeah, exactly. We tell writers, embrace the suck and figure out, understand that your first draft is going to suck. Doesn't matter how clean your copy is, like it's gonna do it. But then I get it back from him and I'm like, no, not me. Like everybody else, not me. Okay, I'm special. I'm a brat. That's it really comes down to I'm a brat.
Yeah, yeah. And you can't see what you can't see. I mean, you're telling the story, so you don't often know that the way that you're bringing characters in is a little off, or your dialogues may be stiff, or maybe you're not doing enough of setting the scene well so people can see themselves there. You don't really know that you're having problems there, and it takes an outside person who's completely foreign to the project to be able to see those things. But like you said, we forget that. And let's be honest, writing is a terribly, terribly personal experience. I don't care how long you've been doing it or what it is that you're writing about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It feels like it's a part of you or something. It feels very personal, very intimate, like I'm inviting somebody in. And so when they're critiquing, it's like they're slashing my soul apart. It's what it feels like to me. It feels very
Right?
painful. Yeah.
It totally does. And it's one of those things where I felt like I had gotten past it. Um, I blog for a living. Like
Mhm.
I write every day. I post. Oh, I try to post every day. And so in doing that, I kind of just there's gonna be typos. Maybe I could have worded something better, but it's really about quantity versus quality in blogging. I don't care really what anybody else says in my career so far. Quantity over quality. But in fiction, it's totally different. Like you want to put out the best product you can.
Mhm.
And so, there wasn't a single edit. I read through the entire book edit. that he did. There wasn't a single thing that was off base or mean or anything like that. He's trying to make my book the best book it can possibly be,
Right.
but I am like, that's my baby. That's like basically telling me my baby is ugly.
Right.
Like, no, it's not.
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah. 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 In fact, mine is a memoir. Mine's a memoir. And my editor came back and said that she basically didn't like the protagonist, which she means she didn't like me.
Yeah, right. Did she know it was a memoir?
Yeah, she did. And she also knows me personally, but she's like, I'm sorry to tell you, but I just wanted to keep screaming at you.
At least she was like kind of nice about it. I would have been like, bitch, I don't like you either." Like,
I know. I know. Like, oh, man.
it's so funny.
Like, you're pathetic. I'm sorry to tell you, but I just wanted to, like, get a backbone or something.
I totally get that. And like that's kind of like screaming at the scary movie characters when you know like the bimbo's about to die. But in a memoir, it's a little different because like I feel like we go through parts of our lives where we don't have backbones. And as much as everybody is screaming at us, telling us, get the fuck up off the floor, like you don't do it.
Yeah,
So
but I know what she's talking about because I'm also in a workshop group, and the workshop group had been telling me the same thing. They'd been saying to me, I'm not bringing enough of interior dialogue in, and I'm also not sharing enough of my emotional experience. So I come across kind of flat and
mm,
passive, and so that's very frustrating to the reader. They don't understand the context for my flatness and passivity. So
mm,
when she said that to me, I knew exactly what the problem was, and I know, so I have to fix that. Which for me, it's a little different. For you, you have to think, okay, more creatively. What would be happening in that situation that maybe I'm not describing or capturing well enough? I have to like dig deeper into myself and saying what was going on in that moment that I haven't realized, didn't know, maybe it's new information to me, but what may be occurring that I need to include that will make this more understandable and make me more sympathetic. So then that's hard because that means I have to share more of me, more of the pain, more of my story to put it into context. So it means I got to go deeper. That's what it means.
okay, so I totally get that because your editor is basically telling you that in story form you are kind of two-dimensional and probably a lot like a Mary. For those of you in the audience who don't know what a Mary Sue is, it's I think a Bella Swan in Twilight, like kind of lacking in flaws and just very, one dimensional and doesn't have a lot of emotional anything really, so I could definitely see that. I feel like that is going to be harder to edit than like I just have to kind of move my timeline up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll be able to reuse what I already have just in like different places throughout the
Mm-hmm.
series.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as much rewriting, but yeah,
I'm facing a
I
major
guess I
rewrite.
don't envy you.
Yeah, no. In fact, I really rewrote the first chapter and I combined several and so I'm also cutting. So I've got my piece right now was sitting at 115,000 words. I want to get it down to 90,000. In fact, I talked to somebody else who like that's a lot of words to cut. But there's a lot of junk in there. And so what I am
Yeah.
already like just because the other thing that happens with a memoir is when you run through the first time, you tell it's like you're vomiting out what happened. And you tell things that don't really need to be there, that nobody cares, and it doesn't drive the story forward. So that's the other thing I'm asking myself: is this helpful or not helpful? Is it moving the plot, or is it just information, or maybe it's meaningful to me? They often talk about kill your darling, so I'm having to like kill a lot of them. So yeah, so I was able to, it took me almost 5 to 6 hours on that one chapter, just one chapter. But
That's
I think it's a
crazy.
lot stronger chapter and it's a setup. Probably the most important chapter of the whole book is the first chapter because I got to set myself up. I got to set the situation up. I got to bring you in and make you feel bad about what's happening to explain what I'm about to do that's really catastrophic. So, so yeah, I'm feeling much better about that first chapter.
I feel like it happens in fiction too when you really want an audience to understand a character, but I feel like it happens a lot in memoir where you You do. You over explain things because you want them to understand you and why you're making the shitty decisions you're making and how you felt in that exact moment. And there's a lot of times where the audience can kind of figure that out for themselves. You know, they will understand you throughout the process of the whole book. You know, and you don't have to over explain everything. I do that too. In blog
Right.
posts, I like, and I'm repetitive. Like
Right.
I say the same thing several times over just to, you know, drive the point home, which is normal for blogging and not normal for fiction. So,
Right. Yeah. And part of my problem is I haven't been saying enough. You know,
mm.
I'm autistic, and as a result of that, I often don't know what I feel in the moment. So I'm kind of like flat about a lot, which makes me really easygoing and made me easy to take advantage of too. But I have so I have to really like sit and think what was going on that I'm not attending to or wasn't including. And yeah, and especially since this story is about the fact that I had just lost my husband and ended up in this really disastrous marriage. So I had to like set up the loss. What did it look like to
Mhm.
completely have to start my life over again? And how did my social situation, what was it in a way that made me vulnerable to getting into a relationship much too fast with somebody? So I just didn't do a good job on the first time around. And then the other hard part with memoirs is that you have this all this interior life and world that you need to include, but you're also needing to drive a story. So how do you
Mhm.
do that in a way that you don't want to overly action pack, which is what I tend to do, but you also don't want to sit forever and tell everybody everything. So it's this kind of this funny balancing act you have to do. But yeah, I'm into it now. I'm 5,000 words in. My goal, you and I both have really lofty goals that we want to do this quickly. So I'm dedicating a lot of energy into this project this month. We'll see where we're at by the end of the month.
Yeah, I you talk about lofty goals. Like I want to publish this book. Like
Yeah.
I it's not a need. I don't need to publish it, but I would like to publish it you know, before things start to really get rolling with the rest of, you know, what's going on in our lives, our businesses and stuff like that. So my goal is to publish first week of April.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that right now on the podcast so that everybody, you know, once the first week of April rolls around, everybody could be like, where's that book? You
That's
know?
right. That's right. Yeah, my goal, I
um,
think it's got to be a little. I think mine has to be June 1st because I do want to send it out to beta readers, and I got to get the cover ready. So I have a few things that are not ready. So
yeah.
yeah,
I once I get this series kind of rolling, June is actually the date that I was kind of playing with for my memoir, which is crazy to think that I'm going to start a series which is like only halfway done and also write a memoir.
have you been
But
thinking
it's
about what topic you want to write about? What could like? Is it a theme, or is it a period of time, or is it a certain relationship, or?
yeah, oh, so it's outlined and it's basically the 7 or 8 times where I've had to hit rock bottom and learn a lesson to then start over again.
Mhm.
So it's you know, and I think rock bottom looks different for everybody, and I think that we do hit it um several times, or it's more of like a you hit a low, maybe it's not a rock bottom, but you hit a low and have to reinvent yourself or change yourself or something like that. So it's kind of just about every time I hit a low and had to evolve as a person and how much it
Yeah,
sucked.
I love that. It's about starting over. I'm
Yes.
very familiar with starting over.
And of course on brand it's called Girl Get Your Shit Together.
I love that title. That's a great title. Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited. It's so much so that it's almost like a shiny new idea. Like I'm supposed to be redrafting, and I'm like, but I want to write this thing over here. You know, I've got
Mhm.
this book that was supposed to be out several months ago, and I'm like, no, new shiny, this one.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know,
Have you written? I
so
know you write creative nonfiction all the time as a blogger. You're a spiller blogger, storyteller. But have you
mhm.
written longer form like this before?
No, I have not. I
How
mean, I have a book
exciting!
out. How exciting! No, how scary! No, I have a book out that is personal essays and poetry about letting go of my last relationship.
Mhm.
Um which is spoiler alert, I got back together with him after I published the book. But it they're still only like 1,500, 2,000 word personal essays. They originally were blog posts. So it is kind of daunting to think that like I'm gonna write a whole book about my life. I mean, who writes a memoir at 32?
Oh, well, yeah, I did at 52.
Yeah, I just feel like I haven't lived enough life, but
Oh, your point was you're not old enough. Oh, no, 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 no.
yeah.
True.
Well,
No.
when I went to outline it, I once I got my theme figured out, you know, falling down, getting back up. I'm like, damn, I've fallen down a lot. Like this could be two
Mm,
books.
mm.
So, you know, it's been interesting, but it is a little daunting to
It
say the
is.
least.
It's a scary process, and one of the books that I found that helped me a lot was "Your Life as Story" by Tristan Rainier, and she in the book says this, and I actually put it on a post-it note and stuck it to my computer, and she says, "Write what you dare not say." And so I would, because I would be terrified, and I would look at that and I'd say, okay, so what am I not able to say? And there's where I need to start writing.
Whew, that's heavy. I mean, I feel like I do that in blog posts. I mean, I've
Hmm.
written about some pretty controversial subjects that have happened to me. Um, but the stuff that I really feel like I can't say, I write under a pen name and don't tell anybody.
Hmm.
So this
Hmm.
is kind of like, you know, opening up that kind of Pandora's box. Well, hopefully not Pandora's box, but you know, kind of opening that up to
Yes, yes, certainly. Yeah, it's a vulnerable process. I mean, very, very, very vulnerable process. And that's,
mhm.
I took a break from this book. So I got it finished last April, put it down for about a couple months, then picked it up and started. So this is actually my third edit moving into.
Yeah.
Picked it up and edited again, and got sick of it. I mean, I just got to the place where I felt like I couldn't stand me. I couldn't stand any of the characters. I couldn't stand the story. So I put that back down maybe 6 weeks ago or so and just stepped away. And then I did something completely different. I've never written longer form fiction.
Hmm.
So I started on that and started even a different point of view because I felt like I just needed like not only to get I needed to get away from nonfiction, I needed to get away from first person point of view. I want to do something completely different. So I started writing a third person, kind of more limited perspective and on a romance. And so that I felt like that kind of like it helped me see this character of myself differently, gave me space from her, and also gave me some ideas about how to talk about her in a different way that I didn't have before. You know, it's like learning, it's like me working on a certain muscle in a different way so that I can come back and do something I was doing better with more
Yeah.
strength. That's what I feel like I'm able to come back like, okay, now I'm ready. I know better how to do this because I already just did 10,000 words over here on this and this way. I'm now I get this a little bit better. But yeah, I think that's the other thing that maybe we are talking about first drafts is there's often something about whatever we're doing we don't really know how to do well.
Hmm.
And we don't even maybe know that we're not doing it really well. And so sometimes we need to step away and practice those things. Like, for example, I learned from this last edit that I'm very good at dialogue. And I also do a really good job with descriptors, like setting scenes up and making people feel like they're there. But I wasn't doing a very good job at explaining emotionally where everybody was. In fact, I was doing a better job with my antagonist than I was doing with my protagonist. So now I can come back in and say, okay, I got to really focus in on her and almost approach it as if it's third person, even though it's first person, which I think I feel better. I feel more ready to do it this time.
See, and I feel like I have stories like that um where I've actually put them away because I've gotten like the outline done or something and I'm like this is an amazing story. I'm not ready for this. Like I am not a good enough writer to do this story justice. And
Mm.
they just sit and they sit until and you know at some point hopefully I do feel like, you know, okay, I'm there. I'm at this level. I can create this world. I can, you know, but yeah, I think it's hard to kind of know where that line is. Like, am I not good enough to write this story, but I will learn, or do I need to take, you know, some time? And so, and I think it's good. It's hard in self-publishing because you have to publish so rapidly.
Hmm.
Um, but I never used to be an advocate for writing a first draft and then putting it in a drawer and like leaving it alone for a while. A lot of writers do it. And I was like, no, you don't need to do that. Like that's overkill. Um, but now looking at this first draft, it has edit notes, but it's almost like seeing it all over again. And I haven't seen it since November.
Right, right. Isn't it amazing how
So
just that kind of break makes it feel completely fresh? It's like now
yeah,
you've changed because you're still writing. That's the other thing that's really cool is when we you keep at the craft, you're moving along and improving and don't even know that you're improving. And then when you can come back, like, oh no, that's not how I would say that today. I've already changed
yeah,
how I would. Yeah, but plus you've also had more life experience in the few months or whatever, and it's new to you. It's fresh to you. You've never. It's as if it feels as if you hadn't seen it. So it
yeah.
does really, really help to do that. It's
There
cool.
Yeah, there are sometimes even like with blog posts and stuff. Like when I was pulling the blog post to put together This Is Me Letting You Go, which is my poetry book and personal essay book. Um I was reading through them to like edit them and I was like, I wrote this? Like me? Like damn, all right. Like
Uh, that's
like
cool.
it surprises you sometimes and sometimes it surprises you in a bad way, but I'm finding that yeah, it's interesting to see how much I've grown as a writer.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. I find that amazing too, and how it can happen in a really short time too. And so I think, yeah, powering through a first draft is really important. It's often taking a break is really, really important, but getting good editorial advice is really important. And then humility, knowing the fact that you're gonna come in and hear that it's not perfect, and that now that just sucks. That part hurts. But it's a necessary part. I've learned my first experience was that first editor nice? No, he wasn't nice. He shouldn't have told me it was a nightmare. And by the way,
Mm,
he dripped his criticism. He sent the actually it was back before we had email, so he
yeah.
sent it in pieces by mail.
Oh.
Mailed it to me with stamps, and I had to open page section by section of this is horrible. I never thought I'd have to take this amount of time. You don't know the basics about blah 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 blah. I mean, it was so he dripped the criticism, and then he ended it with this a letter telling me how awful I was. So I don't advise hiring somebody like that for sure. But what I did learn, and I think this is something that you and I have been talking about just recently as well, is that it is a business as much as we're writing about ourselves, what we're doing
Mhm.
is also work. And we have to get some distance from that. And you can't get better if someone can't tell you the truth.
Oh yeah, I would rather somebody be honest with me and tell me what
Mhm.
needs work and what doesn't need work than tell me, "Oh my god, this is great. You should hit publish today." Because then I'm just going to publish a pile of crap.
Right.
Like, niceness in writing it doesn't do anything for you but feed your ego. And like I'm not trying to get my ego fed,
Yeah, I'd like to
So
feed my pocket, not my ego.
right?
I know.
Like
And
I'm
no one
I'm
can create crap, so
yeah, I'm patting my bank account. I don't need a pat on the back. Like,
that's right. Yeah, we can get that elsewhere. Just
right?
seriously. So yeah, that's and I know that in fact I've heard people who've said to me the reason they won't write is because this part, they can't tolerate this part. It's too
Uh
painful.
yeah, those are very artistic writers. Writers who gosh, why I don't know why Hemingway always comes to mind, but they have like the Hemingway complex of, they're going to do it for the art. And it's almost like if you're a writer and you make money, then you offend them, you know?
So how do you 'but it does hurt. I mean, that's the reality. So Ashley, how do you cope with the fact that this isn't easy? And this is
Mhm.
painful and it's personal. So how do you repair all that? You know?
When you get like a bad edit or not a bad edit, because most edits are going to be good, and even if it's a good edit they're still probably going to hurt your feelings a little bit. For me personally, it's like a put on your big girl panties, deal with this, it's work. But I've never had an edit that felt like it was attacking my story, whether it be like for a blog post, so it would be my actual like stuff I lived through, or like, this is just a bad story or whatever. But I think it's just something that you have to kind of grow thick skin over, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not, you have to understand, you are hiring an editor. I carried a really bad experience, so this excludes that experience. But for the most part, your editor is a professional. They want your book to do well. Their name is on that book as well. So they're not like doing this just to hurt your feelings or to sabotage you or whatever. It's, they want to see you succeed and this is their advice. You can take it or leave it. Most times I would say you should take it. But yeah, you're just going to have to, you know, get some thick skin, which sounds really like callous to say, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you just have to be tough.
Well, but it helped. I think the way I do it, and you're right. I call it getting thick skin as well. The way I do it though is I realize that my work is not me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's
not
not
me.
personal.
No, it may be about me. It may have been, I may have cried writing it, but it's still not me. And it's just a piece of work. And the other thing is, and I think maybe this comes from having experience, and I have found blogging has been tremendously helpful because the feedback's so rapid that it's given me confidence that I'm a good writer so that when this happens, I can say, well, this is a common experience. People really like what I have to say. They want to hear what I have to say. And this is part of the process of making it the best piece possible. So, knowing all that helps me then have perspective so that when edits come back and it's not the edits I want to hear, then I can remind myself those things. But yeah, it's not me. And if this is what we're looking to confirm our value or confirm that we are special or wonderful, it's not the place to put the it's not the place to do that. Our
No,
work is not the place to do that. We should get
no.
that elsewhere in our lives, not through our work, because then it's setting up for trouble on lots of levels. So because not
Yeah.
everybody's going to like what you have to say. You're going to get the trolls, and on top of it, if you're going to start writing for your audience and then you're going to lose your voice, I mean, there's all sorts of problems that start to happen when you do that.
Yeah, it's like that TikTok I keep seeing all the time that says, I do not need validation from the internet. And then the girl's like, I'm gonna go make a TikTok. No. Okay. You have to figure out that you are a whole person, that you are a good writer, that what you want to say is important and valid and all of those things, and keep that separate from getting an edit, reading comments, getting reviews, um, because it will tear you apart.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, writing for like Newsbreak, and I just wrote a blog post. I haven't posted it yet, but I just wrote a blog post about how reading the comments on Newsbreak was affecting my mental health.
yeah,
I mean, we're talking about people who have literally told me that I should be sterilized, that I
yeah,
should shoot myself, that my kids should be taken away from me by CPS. Like, and all of those were on an article about how I sometimes co-sleep with my 6-year-old, right?
wow,
Like, and
wow,
and so if I was looking for validation, for people to tell me that I'm a good writer, that I'm a good person, that I'm a good mother, dear Lord, like
yeah. You and I would have
you
found
can't
found the gun and shot ourselves.
yeah, like I would not be here. So it's
Exactly.
definitely, you have to keep those two things separate.
Yeah,
Um and then once you do that and you realize, okay, the editing process, it's a business. It's just like any other business. It's just a critique, it's like a performance review, it's whatever you need to look at it to be helping you do better
yeah,
and have a better product.
exactly.
So
I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has to be something you have to have some space from. And you get it by experience.
yeah,
You get it by having it hurt and then working through the pain and reminding yourself of the bigger picture. And in fact, what happened with this first edit was I got so angry. I threw 40 to 60% of the book out, rewrote the damn thing, and then paid him again to edit it because it was, to me, it was my big, this to him that I wanted to prove to him that I could do it. And he came back and he had to admit it was a much better book and that I did what, I did it. So, um, but yeah, it really took me having to get past the pain, past the anger, and the past even the humiliation. Let's admit it. Sometimes you just feel stupid, like as you start to wonder, should I be doing this? Am I good enough? But what's helped me, and I don't remember which one of the Russian authors is one of the Russian authors who wrote these big tomes, that his
Mhm.
editors or publishers actually had to drag the manuscript out of his hands because he kept re-editing it. To him, it never was good enough. And you just got to get to a point where you say, you know what, it is what it is, and we're moving on, and it said what I needed to say at the time.
Yeah, because perfect is the enemy of done. Like if
Yeah,
you're waiting for your manuscript to be perfect, you will never publish anything ever. I
yeah,
mean, there's typos in traditionally published books, and those see editors, mountains of editors. So many people go through those books and
right,
they still miss them. Your books will never be perfect.
right,
You will probably not write the next great American novel. Like you're
right,
the next Gone with the Wind, you're probably not doing that.
yeah,
Maybe, but probably not. So, it's just I feel like it's freeing to know those things. Like I used to tell myself that all the time. You're not going to write a bestseller, not right now.
yeah,
Maybe someday, but like this book that I'm working on right now, it's probably going to do really well. And that's it. That's okay. I
right,
think it's freeing to tell yourself that and to not be like, "Oh, yeah, this is going to make me hit the New York Times bestseller list."
right,
That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself at
right.
any time. So,
It's a
I don't
really
know.
good point. I love that. I love the idea of you saying, you allowing it the imperfection. You're right. It is really freeing for you to admit this isn't going to be perfect. I know it's not going to be perfect. It's my story, and people want to hear it. And there are people who want to hear it. I mean, we
Mhm.
know there's an audience for these things because people. In fact, there's something I just recently published, and someone said, "This is what I needed. I'm saving it so I can go back and hear it again." And I thought, see, maybe that's for that one person. Maybe that's all the
Yeah.
audience that needed to be was for that one person. But yeah, so it's important that we do it. We just important that we take off the pressure around it and don't set ourselves up for failure because we're so perfectionistic.
Yeah, I almost feel like it should be a mantra now. Like I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna write this blog post, and it's like, it's gonna suck. That's okay. Like,
Well, that's the other thing about viral. How many times have you and I ever written something and said, "Oh, this will be viral"? Not, no.
no,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
no.
The ones that go are the ones that I wouldn't have thought would go, and the ones that I'm sure will go do not. So,
Oh yeah, it's always the ones that you write like in an hour
yeah,
where you're complaining or
that's right.
like bitching about something, and the ones that you spend 13 hours 2 days on
That's right.
are the
Rewritten by
ones
5 times. Yeah,
are the ones that get like 4 reads, don't even
right,
make you a
right.
dollar. Like
Right. And the other
um
ones I love for me is when I write a piece, I often have sentences that are my favorites that like I cry over when I write them. And I think that they're gorgeous and no one will highlight them.
yeah, right.
And then they'll highlight the ones that are like, no, that's just a stupid statement. It's not
Yeah,
even special.
it's always the ones where I'm like, the internet can be a bitch or something like that. Those are the ones that get highlighted. Not like, the ones that are eloquently written. It's the ones where I'm like cursing and it's stupid. Like,
That's right.
fuck this. Like,
So yeah, I think like again, isn't it amazing how blogging has given you and I a perspective? I guess that one of the things I'm taking away from this is I'm really grateful that I'm a regular blogger because it has
yeah.
helped me. It has helped me with publishing. It's helped me to like reset my expectations, to have engagement with audience and know what audience really likes, to even figure out who my audience is and get to know them, have conversations with them. It's immediate feedback so that I know that there's people who actually enjoy what I have to say. I mean, all of that helps. So that gives me the confidence that when I do this editing with my draft, I can say, yeah, well, this is just part of the process.
I think that's kind of the validation that is good. I don't ever think that you should like expect that readers are going to validate you in some way, but writing on Medium, being a blogger, it does. It did for me. It was kind of like there was a couple things where, I'm not alone. There was validation in that. I'm
Mhm.
not the only person that's had a fucked up life and come out the other end successful. And then you know, I can write decently.
Right.
Like that those three things were validated, and I can make money from my writing. So,
Right.
those four things were validated for me in being when I started blogging. And so I think those are okay. But I mean, I don't know. Like when I started to write, I didn't write expecting those. So I don't think you should ever expect to be validated in any way. But if you are, then it's like a perk, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I hope it doesn't come
I don't know if
across
that makes
saying I
sense.
think one should do that for this, but I do think it's helpful to do writing in a variety of things to get more confidence in yourself, and also to develop relationships, because that's the other thing these this other writing opportunities do, even whether it's on Instagram or Medium or LinkedIn or wherever it is that you're doing it, is you're building relationships and connections with people, because that's really what audience platform is just relationships.
Yeah.
So it gives you an opportunity to develop a relationship and figure out what people want to hear from you. And for example, one of the things that brought me back to this book, because I really considered for a while just not finishing it, not telling the story, putting
Mm.
it away permanently, was that in the same week I had 3 to 4 people, they totally random across various platforms and in person, say, we need to hear the story.
Where's
I'm
that
really
book?
I'm really disappointed that you aren't finishing it. So it helped me. It helped me a lot to be able to give me the the wherewithal that I kind of needed to get back into it and do it. Um, yeah. So it's an interesting thing. I think that's kind of this give and take that happens, and this organic thing that happens between you and the audience. That's really interesting. It's very engaging.
I
But
think
you have to be,
so.
like you said, you have to be careful. I agree with you. I hear you, Ashley. You can't use it as a way to validate. It cannot be your validation, but it can be this dynamic engagement that happens.
I think so. And I just don't think you guys should ever seek validation from an outside source. You have to validate yourself.
Right.
So by, getting emails and things like from readers and having those connections, yes, that does is a form of validation. But if I would have never like been like, oh, okay, I can do this or done the work, then those wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So I still kind of see it as like I made this happen. I manifest this, or I didn't manifest anything. I just did a lot of freaking work. But so it's but yeah, I think that you can have that connection or whatever, but just understand that nothing is concrete, nothing is forever. I've seen readers turn on people
Oh yeah.
with smaller accounts and bigger accounts. I would never, I find it interesting that you decided to pick up the memoir because people were asking for it. And if I was in that situation, I would have been like, I'm working on whatever the fuck I want. Like you don't dictate what I want to work on. And that just kind of shows like a different relationship that we have with our audiences. Like I talk to my audience like they are my best friend that I drink with, but I actually keep them kind of a little bit further away, I think, than you do. I don't interact with them as much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's just kind of, I don't know,
Yeah.
that's to
Well,
protect
you and I
myself.
are different people. So.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think the other part for me was this has sort of been a mission for me.
Mhm.
There's a part of this is it fits in with me being a psychologist, making sense of how does bad shit happen to people, and that can happen to anyone, including somebody who's well educated and should know
Yeah.
better. So for me to hear that it was that they felt that there was a place for that, that this story was important, that's what I needed to hear. It wasn't that I wanted so much to please them. It's that, okay, really what it come down to was I got to the place in the story where I felt so ashamed and so like such a fool that I couldn't bear looking at myself anymore. But to hear people come in and say, no, we need to know that we aren't alone, that everyone feels this bad. That's what I needed to hear for me to say it's worth the uncomfortableness to tell the story if it's helpful to others to know that we're all in this together. So does that make more sense than why I picked it up?
That totally makes sense because I get emails like that, when it comes to like talking about BPD or all these different things where I'm like, oh, okay, I'll talk about that. Um, you know, uh, and so I will blog that way. I don't think I would ever book that way, I guess, or write a book, book that way. I don't think I would ever write like pick what I was going to write for fiction or whatever that way. I have a schedule. I would like to stick to that schedule. But when it comes to blogging, I mean, the main reason I blog is to work through my own stuff and then to let other people know that they're not alone. So, yeah, if somebody came to me and was like, "What's your experience with XYZ?" then I would be like, "Oh,
Right,
okay, I'll write that
right.
post." So,
Well, and I actually put it down. so that so my massage therapist said that he thought that I was exaggerating. That when he hears how bad it was, there's a part of him that wonder. He said if he didn't know me, he'd think I was lying. That I couldn't have been that
oof.
bad. That was
Yeah.
very painful. And then when I saw him the next time, I said, "Yeah, well, that kind of influenced me to step away. I don't want to be one of these hysterical drama related kind of people." And he said, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. No, you missed the context.
Mhm.
I wasn't trying to say that about you. I was saying how naive of me to think this kind of horrible thing doesn't happen to other people. You need to tell this story because people
Yeah.
like me need to know that it happens." So
Yeah.
it was a whole kind of, there was a lot of like things kind of coming together that made me like, oh, okay, maybe the me stepping away was me being cowardly and feeling so much shame that my story was collapsing me. Maybe I need to find the courage for me to go ahead and say, damn it, I'm finishing this piece. So yeah, it's not that I was trying to please them, as more of me grappling with my own self image around the story,
Yeah.
which was one reason why I wasn't saying more how I felt in the story, was because it was, you know, it's just a very painful story. So
It is. And I can't imagine. I mean, I know get I'm going to write a memoir and it's going to be edited. But oh my gosh, I could not imagine somebody like editing my life story. Like, we need to write it this way or whatever. That's not how it happens, though. Like, I can just feel myself I'm already getting worked up. Like, I'm going to be very combative. I have a feeling.
yeah, you know, and you can't change the facts. They are what they are. But it forces, okay, so if they are what they are, and that is exactly what happened, then how did it happen? And then you have to ask yourself deeper. Well, what was going on with me? What did I really believe? What did I think? What was I feeling? What was I wanting? What was I needing? What was I hoping to change? So it forces you to go down, down more, because then one thing I heard, and it really was powerful. The more deep you go and the more specific you are in your vulnerability, the more universally that truth will be. So more people will relate to that. But it's painful. I mean, it's just uncomfortable to do that.
I know, really, like, why? Why did we decide to make careers out of talking about shit that sucks in our life? Like,
Well, that's
who
an
does
interesting
that?
question.
Like,
I think we could like spend some time on a couch over this. Yeah, exactly. I've
no.
I've had people tell me, in fact, I've had people tell me in certain circles that this book is they see it as their voice telling their story too, because there's a whole victim group that's, so yeah, that is a lot of weight. I think writers often carry that weight, that we end up being the mouthpiece on some of these issues.
Yes, I fully believe that.
Yeah.
I really do. Gosh, from anything from like autism to BPD to single mom to all, I feel that all the time, and that is so much pressure.
It
Like,
is.
I just wanna write. Like, go away.
Well, it's kind of a calling. I get, we kind of we started out about even why write at all. I think, one of our first podcasts, but I feel like to me, it is a calling. I can't not do this. In fact, I get upset. I pull my computer up and start typing. You know,
Yeah.
it's how I handle my life. It's like, yeah, exactly. In the middle of when I'm worked up, I pull up notes and start working on an essay. It's just, it's yeah, it's just kind of me. It's how, and I think writers are like that. That's how you know you're a writer, is when you do that.
You're like, I just broke up. I need to write something.
That's right.
Like,
Exactly. Instead of
all
sending
right.
long letter. I'm just going to write a blog.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Oh, I was so that girl though. Oh my gosh, the letters I have written.
Oh, me too. Their blog post right there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, oh man.
Um okay, so we got a slightly off topic, but going back to first drafts and working with editors and what happens when you get your first draft back from your editor, what is the one piece of advice you would give our readers, our listeners?
Remind yourself it is not you. It's a piece of work. It's not you. And it doesn't have the ability to define you.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. You kind of stole mine. So I'm gonna say read your editor's notes with a glass of wine. or or like a piece of chocolate, whatever your vice is when you hear bad news, just take it with a grain of salt and have a drink.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And remember, it is not the end of the world. And if there is something that you really, really feel strongly about, it's okay to disagree with your editor. Like
Yeah.
it is. Um, I wouldn't say ignore all of their edits because obviously it's their job and oh yeah, you paid them. But if you feel super strongly about something, ask them, explain it to them, see, just kind of be okay with having a conversation and maybe making a compromise.
Exactly. I
So,
have actually had dialogues on certain points. My editor often writes comments and thoughts because my pieces tend to be nonfiction. So they'll kind of talk about that topic, and it'll be an interesting back and forth that I get to makes that area richer for doing that. So I agree, and I don't always agree with them. Sometimes I think they don't quite understand, and I'll go with what I think. But you're right. That maybe is less than 10% of the time, maybe closer to 5 to 3%. I mean, it's
yeah.
very, very small because they're the experts on this. I am not. Um, but yeah, and it takes trust. I think the other thing, Ashley, is I would really emphasize is that it's important to be working with somebody that's good, that knows this area, and also that that they have your back and they want a good
Hmm.
piece as well from you.
It's so true because like it is I think in any stage it's a vulnerable situation.
Yeah,
It is when you write something, the door is closed. You're doing it on your own. You're probably not sharing, it with somebody right away. And then to reveal that to somebody, you have to be able to trust them.
yeah.
So, more than anything, make sure you're working with somebody that you trust and that you are going to enjoy working with. And so, yeah, that's a big thing.
It is a really big thing. It's important to have a good relationship with the editor.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. Let's see. If you guys listened to last week's episode when we were talking to Tara Blair Ball about TikTok, just so you guys know, we're on TikTok.
Yep, we both launched bravely. Yep, we're on.
Like this. Like,
That's
like
yeah, with some fear and trembling for sure, for sure. Which is funny because you and I have videotaped these too, so that but yeah, it feels different. I don't know why. It just,
how weird is it? Like I recorded the first of these podcasts with you with no makeup on. Like my hair was pulled up. I don't even think I had showered that day. And now I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do TikTok. I don't want the internet to see me.
oh, talk about
Like,
true confessions there, Ashley.
yeah, like whatever. But it's just it is funny how flipping scared I was to like
Mhm.
post that first video. And I was like, I do not belong here. Like, I am too old to be here.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to tell me I'm too old to be here. Like, that's literally how I felt. But actually, it's been kind of cool.
Mm.
So I'm having fun.
Yeah, me too. I
So,
am too. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, I think my growth there will be different than yours. We got a different niche going, but it's going to be very interesting to do this and learn about it. And I'm learning a lot about how to think about content in a different way, how to make it 15-20 second sound bites instead of
yeah, right.
instead of a 1,000 word essay. I mean,
The good news is that 15 seconds is about how long my ADD lets me focus on something. So it's perfect. Like I can only focus on something for 15 seconds. So
Right, right.
but yeah, so if you guys want to follow us on TikTok, our links are down below in the show notes. Don't forget that we are still running our Discord community. And if you would like to support us, there the link for that is down below and it will take you to Patreon. Yeah, it may sign up for our newsletter, visit our website. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
No, no, I really love that we have these listeners. It's so awesome.
I am so excited.
I am.
Our listeners, the amount of our audience grows every week, and I just feel so freaking blessed that people want to listen to us gab.
Yeah, yeah, very touched, very touched. So thank you
Awesome.
so much, guys. It really means a lot to us.
Yes, it really does. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can email us. And other than that, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, bye-bye, guys.
Bye, guys.